of having clean drinking water in a survival situation is really, really high up on the list. If we think back to our rule of threes, remember, a human can survive for 3 minutes without taking care of major injuries, 3 hours without being sufficiently warm, and only 3 days without enough clean drinking water. So, as far as priorities go, clean water is very high on the list. Dehydration can really take you out in a lot of ways. Early symptoms of dehydration: first and foremost, when you pee, your urine should always be clear. If it has any color to it whatsoever, you're starting to get a little dehydrated. So your urine should come out clear. If it's not, time to drink more water. If you're already starting to feel thirsty, you're already dehydrated. Thirst is your body's way of telling you that I'm dehydrated, I need water as soon as possible. If our level of dehydration surpasses just feeling thirsty, that's when we start to get into some really serious consequences of dehydration. Dehydration is basically when our body starts to shut down. Our organs, our brain, our internal organs don't have the proper liquid, the proper water that they need to function properly. So once dehydration goes past just feeling thirsty, some signs and symptoms: you can start to feel dizzy, you can faint, you can have confusion. If it persists even longer than that, if you lose more water, you can even experience delirium, not knowing where you are or what's going on, and then eventually it could even lead to death within about 3 days. It can actually take less than 3 days if you're in a really hot environment where you're using a lot of energy, expending a lot of energy, doing a lot of sweating. It can be a lot less than 3 days that you can actually die from dehydration. So ultimately, the biggest problem we can face from dehydration is that it starts to shut our brain down. With severe dehydration, your brain starts to not function properly. Your thinking is skewed, your logic and your reason go out the window, you have a hard time formulating thoughts and making connections. And we have to remember, in a survival situation, our brain is our #1 survival tool. Without our brain functioning properly, we're as good as dead. So before dehydration will even kill you just from your entire body shutting down, it's already affecting your brain and making your brain make bad decisions, and that could kill you a lot sooner than just basically dying from dehydration, dying from thirst. Generally speaking, in a normal environment, an adult human, needs between 2 and 3 liters of clean drinking water every single day just for normal function. If you're exercising or if you're in a hot environment, the amount of water you need, obviously, it goes up. So knowing how to get that clean water is really important. We have a lot of methods available to us. I'm going to talk about 3 in particular today. I'm going to talk about filtration of water, I'm going to talk about treating water with ultraviolet light, and I'm going to talk about boiling water as a ways to purify water. On top of these, there's a bunch of others. There's also using various chemical treatments, whether that's iodine, bleach, special pills they sell for the purpose of purifying water. But I don't really like using those chemical solutions for a lot of reasons. Number one, it's going to make your water taste pretty bad in a lot of situations. Number two, they can take anywhere from half an hour up to 4 hours. Or if it's a cold day out, like it is today, it can actually take more than 4 hours for those chemical treatments to work. On top of that, you have to be very sure that you're using the right amount of chemical for the right amount of water. So to me, there's just a lot of ways that can go wrong, and then the water that you get kind of tastes a little chemically anyway, so it's not really an ideal solution. I much prefer filter treatments, UV light treatments, and boiling. So let's talk about a few of those methods, and let me show you a few tools that we can use. If you don't have any method to purify water whatsoever, it's better to drink that water and take the risk and take the gamble and roll the dice than it is to die of thirst and not drink that water when it's available to you. But if you have any type of method to purify that water, it's very important to use it. Water contains viruses, bacteria, especially the two that we're most concerned about are a couple types of protozoa. We're talking about Cryptosporidium and Giardia. Cryptosporidium and Giardia are 2 types of protozoa, 2 types of little creatures that if they get into your system, they'll give you extreme diarrhea, extreme nausea. You're going to start throwing up, possibly having diarrhea. When you throw up and have diarrhea, your body loses water, your body loses nutrition, and that will make you even more dehydrated than you were to begin with. So getting rid of those protozoa, getting rid of that bacteria that can make you sick, is a top priority to make sure our water is good and is going to help us instead of hurt us. The first water purification method I'm going to talk about is filtration. Now, generally speaking, filtration is something you have to plan out ahead of time. It requires bringing special tools out into the environment with you. There are some ways to naturally filter water. For example, if you find a stream or a lake, if you dig a hole several feet away from the stream or the lake, theoretically, the water that then filters into your hole should be filtered by the natural substrate, but it's not 100% guaranteed. It's just one method you can do to hopefully turn the odds in your favor. But if you do bring out certain products into the environment, they will act as a filter for you, removing 99.99% of bacteria, Cryptosporidium, Giardia, other types of protozoa that'll make you very sick. So what I have here is a pump filter. There's a lot of different designs of these, there's a lot of different models, but basically the theory is what we're doing here, we're using a pump. We're pumping directly from a water source through our hose here. The water comes into the hose, and inside we have both a ceramic and charcoal filters. The water is forced through those filters and comes out the bottom here pretty much clean. Filters such as these, they remove almost 100% of bacteria. They remove almost 100% of protozoa, such as Giardia and Cryptosporidium. What they don't do is they do not remove viruses, and this particular model happens to also remove chemicals and toxins. So if there's any chemicals or toxins in the water, this will take a lot of those out. Now, viruses, this does not remove viruses, but if you're in North America or a lot of other, first world nations, the chances that the water is going to contain viruses, very, 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 very slim. Almost not worth worrying about whatsoever. So let me show you how to use this. So our filter here can actually be filtered into any type of container, but this is designed for a standard size Nalgene bottle. So the first thing I'm going to do is unscrew the bottom cap, set that aside, and I'm going to screw on our Nalgene bottle right to the bottom. Now what we need to do is we're going to put our hose down into the water. If you'll see, it actually has a foam floaty right here. You can adjust this up and down on the tube to control the height that the bottom filter starts to go into the water. What we have here, on the bottom of our filter, we have a metal spring to hold the tube down underwater. And inside we have a little sponge that's a pre-filter. That basically just gets rid of your larger debris or larger pieces of leaf and twig and bugs and things like that. What I like to do to even improve that is I take just a regular coffee filter and a rubber band, and I like to wrap that in the coffee filter, and that just prolongs your filter. That's going to be a better filter, and it's going to keep a lot more of the debris out, so that prolongs the life of your filter. All right, next thing we're going to do, adjust the float for the right height, plop that down in the water. Oh well, the rubber band broke and the filter fell off, not a big problem. Just make sure it doesn't stay there so I don't litter. All right, so what we have now is the bottom of the filter is floating freely in the water, and I'm just going to start pumping. I'm going to use nice full strokes. What I'm doing is creating a vacuum, and that vacuum is pulling the water in from our tube. It's forcing it through the ceramic and charcoal filters, and now you see the water is starting to come down and fill up the bottle down there inside. So we're just going to keep pumping until this is all full. So another type of filter technology that I like to use is something that's a little bit new that's been coming out recently. These are actually filter straws. As you can see, it's a lot smaller than our filter pump, and these actually have a really, really long lifetime. And instead of using a pump to cause the pressure, basically you're just using it like a straw and causing pressure for the filter in that way. So in order to use one of these, I could just go right down and drink directly out of the lake, but just for convenience sake, I like to fill up a bottle first. So now, just to get rid of the main debris that is in the water, I could have used a bandana or something to put over the top of the bottle when I filled it up. But right now the water is looking fairly clear, and I didn't feel the need to do that. But just as a pre-filter, just use a bandana or something like that before you fill this up. Once you have it filled up, just make sure you attach the straw in the right direction, get the flow right, and it's as simple as drinking a milkshake. You just go ahead, it takes a good amount of suction to get the flow started, but once the flow is started, it's actually pretty easy to drink with one of these. So just like that pump filter, our straw filter here is removing 99.9% of bacteria and protozoa. It's not removing viruses, and it's not removing chemicals that are in the water. So remember, this is survival. This is not something you're going to use for your drinking water at home. Chances of the water having a virus or chances of the water having any horribly toxic chemicals that are going to cause serious health effects are pretty small, especially in the 72-hour survival window that most situations occur in. So having this to get rid of that 99.9% of bacteria and protozoa is all you're going to need in a survival situation, and couldn't be any easier. The one downside of these, aside from the fact they don't remove any chemicals or toxins, is that if it's really cold out, you need to make sure you keep this filter warm. If this filter gets if it gets wet inside and then freezes, it can actually destroy the filter. So if it's cold out, just keep it next to your body, keep it in the pocket where it's going to stay warm. Another type of water filtration purification technology besides filtration that's easy to bring with you when you go camping or hiking is an ultraviolet light pen. Basically what this is, you have a concentrated ultraviolet light bulb that all you have to do is turn it on, dip it into your water, and that ultraviolet light, it basically kills, technically it scrambles the DNA of, how cool is that? Scrambles the DNA of bacteria, protozoa, viruses, things like that. So ultraviolet light is useful against bacteria, protozoa, and all viruses. It doesn't take chemicals or toxins out of the water, but it kills all those other things 99.999 something percent effectively. So this is a cool thing to have. Ultraviolet light, we do have a natural source of that, the sun, right? If you have a sunny day, you could take a bottle of water, as long as it's a clear bottle, you know, a clear plastic bottle or a glass bottle. If you place that out in the sun for about 4 to 6 hours on a nice sunny day, there's enough ultraviolet light coming directly from the sun to kill all those viruses and bacteria and things like that. But the pen here does it in about 30 seconds to a minute, so a lot quicker, a lot faster. So I'll show you how this works. Okay. To use our UV light pen, we just need to scoop up some water from a fairly clean water source. Once again, if you need to, you can use a bandana or something else as a primary filter to get any leaf particles or anything like that if the water's kind of murky. But the drawback of using this UV pen is if I dip my bottle right into the water, well, the UV light, it doesn't purify the water that sticks around on the rim of my bottle. So if you only have one bottle, you want to be careful that you scoop from one side and then be careful to dry it off and only drink from the other side. However, if you have two bottles, the much easier thing to do is to fill up using one bottle and carefully pour the water into our second bottle so it doesn't touch the rim and we don't worry about cross-contamination that way. So, it's going to go ahead, fill up the bottle. Oh, so another cool tip, if you're filling your bottle up from a river, point the mouth of the bottle downstream. If you point the mouth of your bottle upstream, that gives more chance for particles or other weird things to float into your bottle. So if you're filling up from a moving source of water, point the mouth of the bottle downstream when you fill up. Alright, so just going to take our water and very carefully, just going to pour into our second bottle here. And our pen works by doing 1 liter at a time, so we're going to make sure we fill this up. Alright, once we have our bottle of water collected, we're going to take the cap off of our UV pen. We're going to insert the pen all the way down so that the contacts are submerged in water. And you're going to press the button however many times it tells you for the amount of water. You're going to make sure that the UV light comes on. And basically you're just going to stir this around until the little red indicator light goes off, letting you know that the water has been effectively treated. So like I said, the ultraviolet light, what it does is it actually scrambles the DNA of the bacteria and protozoa and other things, and it kills all bacteria, all viruses, all those things that are going to make you sick and give you diarrhea. So as soon as that indicator light goes off, all you do is pull it back out, and your water is clean and good to drink, ready to go. Alright, the final method of purifying water I'm going to talk about is simply boiling it. Boiling water is one of the most effective ways to make sure that it's drinkable and safe and gets rid of everything that's going to make you sick. When you boil water, it kills all bacteria, all protozoa like Cryptosporidium and Giardia. It kills all viruses. The only thing it doesn't do is take chemicals and toxins out of the water, but not a problem. We're in a survival situation. So to boil, obviously we just need some type of vessel that can withstand flame. That's it. Right here I'm just going to use a stainless steel water bottle. So we just go down to the water, fill it up, put it on the fire. Alright, so I have a nice little fire going here. I have my stainless steel bottle full of lake water. So all we have to do is put our bottle on the fire for the water to boil. So of course we're going to remove our plastic top, so number one, it won't melt, and number two, the pressure won't cause the bottle to explode. And what we want to do is find a fairly hot but fairly steady place to place our bottle in the center of the fire. And then we're just going to build up our fire around the bottle a little bit. The other thing I'm going to do right now, I'm actually going to add some fresh white pine needles to our water. Now, the white pine needles, they're not going to help us to purify the water, they're not going to kill bacteria, they're not going to filter anything. What I'm doing this is, pine needles contain a whole lot of vitamins and minerals, including a big handful of pine needles, if you make tea from that, has about as much vitamin C as a full glass of orange juice. So I'm going to add these pine needles to our water to give us a boost of vitamins and minerals, and also so that if the water that we're taking, if it's water from a lake or a stream or something like that, if the water tastes a little funky or off, this will actually help mask the flavor of that water that we're drinking and give us a little energy boost at the same time. So we'll take a couple good sized chunks of needles here. And those are just going to go right down inside our bottle to brew like tea. So there's actually a lot of myths about boiling water for purifying it. A lot of people think you need to boil the water for 10 minutes, for 5 minutes, for 20 minutes. Sometimes I hear a half hour. Well, the truth is, as soon as our water hits a rolling boil, as soon as it's really bubbling, that means 100% of viruses, bacteria, and protozoa have all been effectively killed. So no need to boil your water for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, anything like that. As soon as it hits a rolling boil, it's good to go. All right. So as you can see, we've reached a full rolling boil. Let me get these out of here. Our water is going through a nice boil right now, so it's totally safe to drink, totally good to go. Got a couple ways to take it off your fire. You could use a couple pieces of wood as tongs, just like this, and pull it out. All right. Our other option for taking it out of the fire is just using, if we have a handkerchief or a glove or something around like that, we can just use that as a hot pad, grab our bottle right by the top, and just pull it out of the fire that way. And as long as you hold near the top where it wasn't direct flame, you won't be getting burned anytime soon. All right, I think our boiled water with a little pine in it has cooled down enough. Let's give it a try. It's actually pretty tasty, not bad at all. So here we go, on a cold day. This boiled water give you a nice pickup, keep you warm, and if you put white pine needles in the water, on top of that, it's going to give you some vitamin C and some other vitamins and minerals that are good for your body, give you a quick energy boost. So boiling water, definitely a good way to go when you're going to purify water, and then it gives you the opportunity to add a couple ingredients that are going to benefit you for your own nutrition and survival as well. So, to your health. So far we've talked about how to collect water from our environment and purify it through several different ways. Through filtering, through UV light, and also through boiling. However, nature does provide us with water that's safe to drink right from the get-go, something we don't need to purify at all. One example of this is rainwater. If you can collect any type of rainwater in a clean container, that rainwater is safe to drink without any purification. That goes for snow as well. The only difference with snow is, in order to keep your body's core temperature up, you always want to melt the snow first. You don't want to eat snow right off the ground. By eating it, it's really going to cool down your body's temperature, cool down your internal temperature, could bring on hypothermia. So always melt your snow before consuming it in a cold environment. And then finally, if you have just a clean piece of fabric, something like a bandana or a handkerchief, or even a clean t-shirt, you can actually collect water from your environment by just wiping it down if there's morning dew on trees, if there's rain on trees. But in the morning time, when the trees are full of dew, especially a pine tree like this, holds a whole lot of water. Same thing goes to the grass. You can reach down and swipe the morning dew off of grass onto a handkerchief or something like that. After a couple minutes work, it won't take long at all. This will be totally dripping wet, totally soaking. You can take it and squeeze it right into your own mouth, or squeeze it into a clean container, and you can get clean drinking water just from rain or from dew that is on the plants themselves. Finally, there are a couple tree species that if it's the right time of the year, we can actually tap into those trees, make small cuts, and they'll actually leak a whole lot of sap that we can drink. Good examples of these are sugar maple and all types of birch. Those are really good trees for making a small cut and having that sap leak out. And drinking that sap is almost like an energy drink. It has lots of vitamins and minerals that help our body. So even without any type of purification method whatsoever, if you don't have the means to build a fire and you don't have the means to boil water, you can still collect drinkable water from your environment as long as you have rain, snow, or morning dew, or the right type of trees. If you are in an area and you don't see any water sources around, there are a couple ways to find water. Water, of course, has to obey the laws of physics, so if you need to find water, one of the best tricks is to head downhill. Any water, it heads downhill as well, just through gravity, so by heading downhill, hopefully eventually you'll run into a source of water. Another thing to do, follow the animals around. If you find animal trails, then there's a good chance those animal trails will eventually lead you to water. Animals are just like us. They need lots and lots of fresh, clean water for them to drink, or they won't survive either. So by following the animals and their trails, that can also lead us to water, and which we know through the rule of threes, one of our top survival priorities, and we absolutely need it for survival.